Welcome to The Know, I'm Brian. If you're hoping that EA is going to lose that Star Wars license after it runs out, I got some bad news for you, because apparently Disney thinks they're doing a heck of a job. That came from Disney CEO Bob Iger, who made some interesting comments, to say the least, about video games in a recent earnings call with investors. Basically, Iger said Disney's never been good at making video games, no shit, and they're pleased with their relationship with EA, especially when it comes to Star Wars. Excuse me for a second. Fuck! Thank you. That's according to Variety, which quoted Iger as saying, "We're good at making movies and television shows and theme parks and cruise ships. We've just never managed to demonstrate much skill on the publishing side of games." But that's not all. Iger, who apparently has never played a video game or read a YouTube comment section, is apparently pleased as punch with the job EA is doing with Star Wars. He said specifically, "Since we're allocating capital in other directions, we've just decided that the best place for us to be in that space is licensing and not publishing. We've had good relationships with some of those we're licensing to, notably EA and the relationship on the Star Wars properties, and we're probably going to stay on that side of the business and put our capital elsewhere." Hold on, excuse me again. Fuck! Thank you. All right, speaking of EA, they had an earnings call of their own recently, and CEO Andrew Wilson said that Battlefield 5 didn't hit their sales expectations for the holiday. That's not a huge surprise considering that they started cutting its price almost immediately. You don't typically do that with games that are selling well. Anyway, according to Game Informer, CEO Andrew Wilson blamed the bad sales on the game's delay last fall, as well as its focus on single-player modes as opposed to the Battle Royale mode, which of course still has not been released. The company said that Battlefield 5 has sold 7.3 million copies. That sounds like a lot, but it was apparently a million below EA's expectations. As for upcoming games, EA has very big hopes for Anthem. The game releases February 22nd. That's just a few weeks away. Wilson said they expect it to sell 5 to 6 million copies by the end of the fiscal year, basically means in about 6 weeks. GamesIndustry.biz quoted Wilson as saying that after people played the Anthem demo, they realized, quote, "It is a game that's unlike any other game they've ever played." As long as they haven't played Warframe, I guess.
Or Destiny,
yeah.
or, you know, The Division.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, moving on. The free-to-play Battle Royale game Apex Legends had a very big first day. EA says that the game from Respawn hit 2.5 million players in its first 24 hours, and it peaked at almost 600,000 concurrent players.
I was one of them.
Aaron loved it. CEO Andrew Wilson, we're quoting him a lot today. He said, "It's very early, but the response to the game has been very, very strong. Player sentiment seems to be very, very high right now." And apparently they've got something else Titanfall related that will release this year. PC Gamer quoted Wilson as saying, "While I don't have more to share with the particulars of what we have coming from Titanfall, Respawn are a tremendously creative team. They always anticipated that Apex Legends would be a spectacular game in the Battle Royale genre, and that they'd use that as a ramp point to deliver a truly creative take on what Titanfall is in a premium context later on in the year." My skin really crawls when I hear the word premium. Am I the only one?
Nope.
It does. Meanwhile,
nope.
Respawn CEO Vince Zampella tweeted, "We are also working on more Titanfall for later in the year. Yes, I said the T word. We love being able to experiment in this crazy universe in a premium way." It's just crawling. All right, speaking of EA, let's talk about one of its most favorite things, loot boxes. Nobody likes them, many governments around the world are investigating them, and industry shills like the ESRB continue to side with publishers over fans when it comes to defending them. But now, one review site is going to make it very clear if a game has those mechanics. In an announcement, OpenCritic said that it will now flag games that have loot boxes in them. In a post that really articulately outlined their stance on the issue, they called them a net negative for the video game industry. OpenCritic wrote, "Loot boxes prey on humans' generally poor ability to accurately understand and internalize probabilities, especially at the extremes. Rather than offer in-game items directly, loot boxes are used to mask the underlying cost of extremely attractive items." Very well put. They went on to call loot boxes gambling and wrote, "Industry leaders have tried to spin loot boxes as fun game mechanics, similar to opening presents on Christmas morning and discovering what's inside. These institutions downplay the significance of loot boxes, claiming they are cosmetic only or completely optional, or can be earned through the course of normal gameplay. These arguments ignore the perceived value of cosmetics, the progression systems built on them, and the sluggish pacing that effectively locks content." They did, though, draw a distinction between games like Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is pure monetized trash, and many games like Witcher 3's Gwent system, which OpenCritic called a valuable addition to the game. Ditto for mechanics in games like Watch Dogs and the first Red Dead Redemption. Finally, OpenCritic said, "It's our mission to help gamers make informed decisions when considering a purchase or download. We feel that informing consumers about the presence of loot boxes is a key part of our mission." Okay, so what do they consider to be loot boxes? Well, they listed a number of criteria, including unknown or random rewards, whether or not they're monetized, and if the game encourages their use during normal gameplay. And they are starting right now. They flagged Apex Legends as having loot boxes, even though they are cosmetic only. OpenCritic added that these mechanics are similar to gambling and are being investigated by Belgium's Gaming Commission, the Netherlands Gaming Authority, and other government bodies. Definitely a big step and a welcome one. Good on you, OpenCritic. Red Dead Redemption 2 has beat sales expectations for its publisher Take-Two Interactive. GamesIndustry.biz reports that it has sold 23 million copies, which, needless to say, surpassed expectations. That helped boost the publisher to making more than $1.24 billion in revenue for the quarter. That surpassed even Take-Two's own forecast.
For the quarter, by the way, not
crazy.
for the year.
That's right.
Woo!
CEO Strauss Zelnick said that the online component, Red Dead Online, is doing better than GTA Online was doing at this point. Specifically, he said, in terms of comparing where Grand Theft Auto Online was in terms of engagement at this stage of the game versus where Red Dead Online at this stage of the game is, Red Dead Online has more engagement, is doing better, and has a lot more early traction, which we think is very encouraging. And then he did the Scrooge McDuck bath into a fucking pool of gold coins. All right, let's finish up by talking about Death Stranding. We got a little more info about the game from one of the actors involved. Metro UK had an interview with Norman Reedus about the game. He, of course, called Hideo Kojima a genius, because he is. As for the game itself, Reedus said, "The concept is so far out into the future. Instead of eliminating everyone around you, it's bringing everyone together. It's a very positive video game, but scary and depressing at the same time. It's kind of a new movie. I've never seen anything like what we're doing." Now, Metro also asked Reedus about trailers that have been released showing parts of the game, and he replied, "The trailers show you an aspect of it, but not a whole picture of what the game will be." That's like a whole other thing. It's complicated. It's a crazy complicated game. I've been learning a lot about video games doing it. Still no word on a release date, but interestingly, Metro said that Reedus' comments about the game had been embargoed until now. So, interesting little tidbit there. All right, that is all the news we've got for you today. Let us know what you think about all these stories down in the comments below. And for all your news from every corner of the internet, like this video, subscribe to The Know, hit us up on theknow.tv.
Man, you were really upset about the whole EA Star Wars thing. Are you okay?
I lost my voice from that yelling.